that she would have inserted herself into their lives to guide, to advise, to protect. And then he paused, and he said, "But whether Meghan would take it is another thing." In 5 words, he planted the question the royal world has been circling for years. Was Meghan willing to be guided? Whatever her intentions, met him at the speed of that run. Burrell went one step further, and this is where it gets haunting. He said he could imagine, if Diana had lived, that she might well have moved next door to them in California. Now, is this too neat? Too simple? I'll let you decide. But consider what Burrell is actually saying beneath the surface. He is saying that the man Meghan Markle married in that fairy tale Windsor ceremony in 2018 was, at least in part, a creation of grief. A prince who had been running from something for 20 years, and Meghan's view, by the person he married, and a legacy, Diana's legacy, hanging in the balance while her 2 sons refused to speak to each other. That is the story Paul Burrell has broken his silence to tell. Not for applause, not for controversy. The real conversations happened. He saw the faces behind the public ones. And what he sees now, from the outside looking in, is this: a family fractured beyond easy repair, a prince reshaped by grief, and in Burrell, no journalist with a palace source can claim, is a decade of lived, daily, intimate proximity to the people at the center of this story. He was inside the rooms where the palace corridors when William was a child, learning to navigate a household defined by the collapse of his parents' marriage. He watched a boy become a young man under pressure that would have cracked most adults. And now, decades later, as William stands on the threshold for what became an international crisis, William shuts the door, for good. If Paul Burrell's words about Meghan have been explosive, his words about Prince William have been devastating in a different, quieter way. Burrell watched William grow up. He was there in the Kensington of becoming king. Burrell says what is happening between the brothers is not a temporary falling out. It is a closing. Make no mistake, Burrell told one outlet, William is keeping Kate and his family well away from Meghan and Harry. The door of
Actually, they're following in Princess Diana's footsteps. I remember she set out in her sitting room the plans of a home in Malibu, California. She would embrace Meghan and Harry and tell them, do your thing. Do what makes you happy.
There are people in this world who keep secrets that could bring kingdoms to their knees. Paul Burrell is one of them. For a decade, he stood inside Kensington Palace as Princess Diana's closest confidant, her most trusted aide, and the man she called, in her own words, her rock. He was there through her darkest nights, through the crumbling of her mansion, public positioning, and then, when that purpose has been fulfilled, those people are gone, discarded, dropped without ceremony. In his own words, he said she sucks them dry and then they'll be gone. He used the Beckhams as a direct example. David and Victoria Beckham, arguably the most globally recognized predator. He went further. He described a pattern of behavior he says he has watched play out repeatedly. Meghan befriends powerful, famous, influential people. She draws them in. She uses them for whatever purpose they serve: social credibility, career elevation. In a television interview with GB News, as reports about the sudden collapse of Harry and Meghan's close friendship with David and Victoria Beckham were making headlines, Burrell looked into the camera and said something that left the host visibly startled. He called Meghan Markle a predator. Not difficult, not ambitious, not even calculating. Adelaide Cottage is shut, and there is no way in for Harry and Meghan. The reason, as Burrell sees it, is simple and irreversible. William doesn't just feel hurt, he feels betrayed. And the betrayal is not merely the public criticism, the Netflix documentary. He went further. He said William now regards Harry as background noise, that he is likely okay with never speaking to him ever again. And when Burrell was asked about the September 2025 meeting between Harry and King Charles, a brief tree or the memoir, it is something more essential, a violation of trust that cannot be undone by a phone call or a 55-minute tea at Clarence House. William knows that Harry can't be trusted, Burrell said, and doesn't want any more upset in his family. He held Diana together during her lowest moments. And when she died in that tunnel in Paris in 1997, something in Paul Burrell died too. Now, after decades of holding back, after surviving a criminal trial and chosen to say the word that stopped the room. Let's not build to this slowly. You came here because you heard the word he used about Meghan Markle, and that word deserves to be examined directly, because it is not a word Paul Burrell chose carelessly. 2002, where he was accused of stealing hundreds of Diana's possessions, charges that collapsed after Queen Elizabeth II herself intervened. After writing 2 best-selling books and watching the monarchy transform around him, Paul Burrell has decided there are no more secrets to keep, and Meghan Markle is at the center of what he has. The man Diana called her rock, took the freedom they gave him and used it in the only way he knew how. He told the truth as he experienced it. Now, in 2025, with Diana gone for nearly 3 decades, with Queen Elizabeth gone, with a new king on the throne, and a war inside the royal family that shows all of it was sacred. He meant to carry it all to his grave, but the palace, when it prosecuted him in 2002, made a choice. It lifted the silence it had bound him with, and Paul Burrell. But because, after everything, he still feels responsible for the boy who ran into his arms in 1997. The silence is over. There is a line in Paul Burrell's new book that has stayed with me since I first read it. He says that when Diana died, he believed he owed her everything. Her trust, her confidence, her private words carried that grief into adulthood. But one of them, in Burrell's telling, remained, at his core, recognizable. The other became someone else. And Burrell's implicit question, the one hanging over every interview, every page of the book, is what changed Harry, or more precisely, who? Seeing. He describes Harry as someone who lives in a world where he directs, writes the scripts of, and stars in his own particular soap opera. The phrase is surgical, because it doesn't accuse Harry of lying. It accuses him of something more insidious, of constructing a reality in which he is always the protagonist, always the victim, always the one he lives in his own soap opera. Paul Burrell has a particular gift for saying scalding things in measured language, and nowhere is this more evident than in his assessment of Harry's approach to public life. In The Royal Insider, Burrell writes about Harry with the precision of someone who has been watching a performance and finally decided to name what he has trusted more than almost anyone alive, delivering a verdict on the woman who helped reshape, and some would say, unravel, everything Diana built. And it is worse than you think. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see the Sussex story through completely different eyes. Who is Paul Burrell, and why does it matter? Before we get to the bombshells, not with this kind of authority, not from someone who literally held the heir to the throne as he cried for his mother. This isn't a tabloid hit piece. This isn't a whisper campaign. This is the man Diana. Where are they now? Here is the question I want you to sit with for a moment. When a man who spent a decade learning to read the private behavior of one of the most complex women in modern history looks at Meghan Markle and uses the word predator, is he speaking from bias or from pattern recognition? Comment below. I genuinely want to know what you think. Paul Burrell made a claim so stark, so direct, and so fundamentally reframing of the entire Sussex saga that it has been quoted around the world. If Princess Diana were still alive, he says, Harry would never have the bombshell Diana claim, the wedding that should never have happened. This is the revelation that has shaken the royal world to its core. In a September 2025 interview with The Mirror, timed to coincide with the release of The Royal Insider, then, in 1987, he made the move that would define his life. He joined the household of Charles and Diana at Highgrove House, and from that moment forward, he belonged to Diana. Think about what that proximity means. He was not a friend in the social sense. He was something more intimate than that. He was the person who was there when the cameras were off, when the performance was over, when the Princess of Wales was just a woman trying to survive an institution that had decided she was inconvenient. He witnessed the implosion of the royal marriage from the inside. He watched Charles's affair with Camilla play out in real time. Reliable, invisible in the way only the best household staff can be. He absorbed everything, the protocols, the rhythms, the unspoken rules of a world that does not publish its rulebook because everyone inside it simply knows Apartment 1A and saw the grandeur, the high ceilings, the sweeping rooms, the ballroom that sat beneath the same palace roof as her cramped 2-bedroom Kensington Palace, a recently renovated royal residence complete with its own ballroom, One evening, Harry and Meghan were invited to dinner at William and Kate's apartment. And when Meghan walked into a 18th century two-bedroom house on the grounds of Kensington Palace, low ceilings, modest rooms, historic, yes, but modest. Meanwhile, William and Kate were living in apartment 1A. A debate is wide open. I'll see you in the next one. Bell, because the next revelation in this story is coming sooner than anyone expects. And drop a comment below. Do you think Paul Burrell is speaking truth, or does he have an agenda of his own? Burrell did not flinch. He acknowledged the tension and stood his ground. His argument essentially is that the difference lies in who started it. Harry, in his telling, used his memoir to attack people who had no right of reply. Burrell is simply exercising the right of reply that Harry inadvertently granted when he chose to go public. And then there is the matter of the Official Secrets Act. When Burrell entered royal service in 1976, he signed it. He was bound by it for his entire career. It was only when he was put on trial in 2002, when the institution turned on him, that the act was effectively suspended. "They set me free," he has said. "My reward for what they put me through was the fact that I could speak." But because it is the most human. Paul Burrell does not dislike Harry. He makes that clear throughout his interviews and his book. What he feels is something closer to grief. In a statement that has been widely quoted since the publication of the Royal Insider, Burrell described watching Harry's public evolution over the past several years with a kind of quiet disbelief. He said, "I just don't understand all this petulance and entitlement. These are new things which have come his way. And I don't know who sowed those seeds, because they were never there as a child." Read that again. He doesn't know who sowed those seeds. He then asked a question that no royal commentator, with all their analysis, their access, their years of palace coverage, has been able to answer. So where is that lovely, jokey boy now? Burrell described, quiet, stubborn, and total, that he would work there one day. He followed through. At 18 years old, Paul Burrell entered royal service as a footman at Buckingham Palace. Within a year, he had become Queen Elizabeth II's personal footman. You need to understand who exactly is doing the talking here, because context is everything. Paul Burrell was born in 1958 in Grassmoor, Derbyshire, a small coal mining village in England. His family was working class. His father drove lorries. By rights, the closest Paul Burrell should have ever gotten to a palace was a school trip postcard. But at the age of 8, something happened that changed the course of his life. He visited London. He watched the changing of the guard outside Buckingham Palace, and he made a decision. A boy he held in his arms on the worst night of that child's life becomes someone he no longer recognizes. And he has concluded, with the weight of 20 years of observation, that Meghan Markle played a central role in that transformation. When he says Diana would have been disappointed, he is not being theatrical. He is who chose a different path and cannot forgive his brother for the damage the other path has caused. Paul Burrell is not a perfect witness. He has been criticized, challenged, and accused of cashing in on Diana's memory. Some of those criticisms have merit, but what he has, what no commentator, no royal biographer, translating the wishes of a woman he knew at the deepest level of private confidence into a verdict on her son's choices. And the verdict is not cruel. It is something worse than cruel. It is sad. When he says William will never trust Harry again, he is not offering hot-take commentary. He is delivering a reading of a prince he watched grow up, shaped by the same loss and have resisted. The dinner that changed everything. Jealousy behind palace walls. Here is a revelation from the Royal Insider that has not gotten nearly enough attention, and it is perhaps the most psychologically revealing thing Paul Burrell has put on record. Was she interested in the institution she married into, or only in the platform it offered her? And what does it say about a person that even the imagined presence of Princess Diana, the most beloved royal figure of the 20th century, is offered as a force that Meghan might? He believes he knows the exact moment the rift between Meghan and Kate began. Not the bridesmaid dress argument, not the media narrative about tears before the wedding. Earlier, much earlier, it was dinner. Burrell takes his readers back to the early days of Harry and Meghan's engagement. The couple was living at Nottingham Cottage, known inside the palace as Not Cot, a small, His argument is that Harry's entire personal trajectory, the rebellion, the rage, the exodus from royal life, the memoir, the Netflix series, the public warfare against his own family, is the product of a wound that never healed because the person best positioned to heal it was taken from him at 12 years old. As Burrell put it in his own words, Harry would have married an English aristocratic girl, settled down, conformed and done his job. He was blunt. Harry wouldn't have acted out, wouldn't have rebelled, and would never have crossed paths with married Meghan Markle. Not because Diana would have been prejudiced, not because she wouldn't have cared for Meghan, but because Harry would never have been the version of himself that Meghan met in the first place. Think about that. Burrell's argument is not simply that Diana would have disapproved of Meghan, it's deeper and more disturbing than that. The British press, who delivered a public memoir attacking his family, who compared his relationship with his father to a hostage situation, that man, Burrell says, is almost unrecognizable. He drew a comparison that the Harry he knew growing up as kind, generous, warm-hearted, carefree, the boy who made people laugh in the corridors of Kensington Palace, the teenager who was quick to smile even when the weight of his mother's death sat visibly on his shoulders. That is the boy Diana raised, and the man he sees today, the man who filed lawsuits against the British. No one in Burrell's position has drawn this directly. Yet William hasn't gone wrong, and he lost his mother too. That sentence is as close as Burrell comes to pointing a finger. Both brothers lost Diana. Both were 12 and 15 years old when the world ended on a Paris road in 1997. Both could not have met him if Diana had lived, and that the marriage, as it unfolded, produced a version of Harry that Diana would not have recognized. If that doesn't make you stop and think, nothing will. If you found this video valuable, subscribe so you never miss a royal breakdown like this one. Hit the notification. No signs of ending. Burrell has spoken again. More clearly than ever, more pointedly than ever, with words, predator, disappointed, unrecognizable, that cannot be unsaid. Whether you believe him is a choice only you can make, whether you think Meghan deserves the label he gave her, or whether you think Burrell is a complicated figure projecting his own emotions onto a complex woman. Those are conversations worth having. But what is not in question is the weight of the voice delivering these words. This is not a palace flunky selling gossip. This is the man Princess Diana trusted with her survival, and he is now on record saying that the woman Harry married wouldn't. He is interpreting a woman he knew intimately. And his conclusion about what Diana would have felt watching the Sussex story unfold is both simple and heartbreaking. She would have been disappointed. Would Diana have been disappointed by Harry's until her death in 1997? He was there across a decade that included some of the most turbulent years in the history of the British monarchy. So when he speaks about what Diana would have thought, felt, or done, he is not speculating from a position of general admiration. Text matters, because it means the man now delivering this verdict on Meghan Markle did not choose to break his silence. The palace chose it for him, years ago, when it decided to prosecute him. What came after was not betrayal, it was consequence. What Diana would have done, and what she would have felt. Paul Burrell served Diana from 1987, beginning to feel they are being used by Meghan. He asked with genuine sadness in his voice, "Isn't it sad? The Beckhams were there at the wedding, as were the Obamas and the Clooneys. However, a recognizable celebrity couple in British history were at Harry and Meghan's wedding in 2018. They were photographed together, celebrated, held up as proof that the Sussexes had arrived in a rarefied social stratosphere. And then, a falling out, reports of fury. David Beckham reportedly described himself as absolutely bloody furious after Victoria was accused of leaking stories to the press about the couple. Burrell's response was devastating in its simplicity. He didn't express shock, he expressed recognition. He said people were, the version of events is the only version that counts. Burrell went on to criticize what he called the fundamental hypocrisy of Harry's public journey. Harry wrote a memoir, Spare, in which he made devastating claims about members of his family, including Paul Burrell himself, without giving them the ability to respond. He starred in a Netflix documentary doing the same, and yet, when Burrell or others in Harry's orbit speak publicly about their own experiences, Harry reportedly reacts with fury. "He could reach me and tell me how he thinks privately," Burrell said, "but I'm not allowed to speak in public about his world? It seems to me to be hypocritical." When interviewers pointed out to Burrell that he is, of course, doing exactly what Harry did, publishing a memoir about private royal experiences, two-bedroom proof that she had married the spare, not the heir. Burrell's framing raises a painful question about human nature.